Hello, Dog Nation. Happy Thanksgiving. Welcome in to Go With The Flow, presented by R.S. Andrews. We're coming up. We'll make our big picks on all the rivalry week games of note from a point spread perspective. You'll hear from me, of course, and most of our other Dog Nation colleagues, as well as Dari Payro from R.S. Andrews on what is, typically speaking, and this year expects to be no different, one of the most fun weeks of the year. Rivalry week on tap, and of course that includes clean, old-fashioned hate between Georgia and Georgia Tech on Black Friday at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Before we get to that, let's go back and give you an update on how things have been going. And boy, we have got quite a battle right now at the top of our standings. And how about the red-hot pace as of late for Dari Payro from R.S. Andrews, 4-2 last week. Mike also 4-2, essentially making the exact opposite picks that I made. That was good enough to get him a winning week, as I was once again a loser last week. But Mike is on a torrid pace at 37-29 for the year. Quite impressive. But Dari, nipping at his heels, 4-2 as well, puts him at 35-31 as we move towards the late stages of our competition here. Jeff Sintel is also in the plus side of 500, 3-3 last week, puts him at 34-32 on the year. Kaylee Manziel matched Jeff last week, but 2 games behind him in the standings overall. I'm tied with Kaylee, too, after a 2-4 week last week. Connor, 3-3, just a game behind me at 31-35 here right now. So that's where things stand with the standings. Dari Payro, I got to ask you, how does it feel? Hot as of late. Mike Griffith, though, he won't stop winning. Whatever the system that Mike says he's been using, clearly it's been working because he keeps racking up these winning weeks. Quite a battle right now at the top of the standings, Dari.
Yeah, I was hoping to make up some ground this past week. I was hoping he was going to finish 3-3 and try to cut that in half. But, this is going to be a tough week. His system, you can throw that out the window because this is rivalry week. Weird stuff happens, and his system will be broken when we get on here next week to talk about it.
Should be very interesting to see if that's the case. And, of course, when you talk about rivalry week, you talk about the big battle between Georgia and Georgia Tech. So when we start right there right now, obviously Georgia's on a long winning streak, winning every game in this series dating back to its last loss in 2016. The last couple of years, these games have been closer than experts would have expected. Tech obviously comes limping in after its loss last week to Pitt, 42-28. Georgia seems to be playing its best football of the season, 10-1 on the year right now. And, of course, as I said before, working on a 7-game winning streak against Georgia Tech with a win on Friday would have a chance to match the famous 8-game drought that they once had that led to the retirement of Theron Sapp's jersey of Georgia. Obviously, some significance if it could win for an 8th straight time against Georgia Tech. Favor to do just that. The line we're going with here is with Georgia as a 13.5-point favorite on Friday afternoon from Mercedes-Benz Stadium against Georgia Tech. Mike Griffith, we come to you to kick things off. You have the honors with the lead in the standings. What do you want to do with Georgia favored 13.5 here against Georgia Tech?
Yeah, Brandon, it kind of looks like a dangerous game when you consider Georgia Tech's offense and the history of the series and last year. At the same time, though, I think that Georgia had a get-right game with those guys getting a lot of rest against Charlotte. I wasn't impressed with Georgia in that game, but we weren't supposed to be. I don't think Kirby wanted bells and whistles and lopsided margin. I think he wanted a hungry group of dogs. I mean, he's been on them all week. I know 13.5 is the odds makers begging us to lay those points, but I'm going to walk through that door, and I'm going to take the Bulldogs to cover the spread. And I know that that's going to make a lot of people happy that think they're going to make up some ground, but this is like Georgia's home away from home, and that's just too much of an advantage. The moment's too big for Georgia Tech.
So, Mike, on the side of Georgia here, minus the 13.5. Jeff Sintel, what about for you?
Folks, I think, although it's kind of funny how system quarterback's not a good thing, but a system prognosticator for Mike Griffith, that has him at the top of the standings right now. When it comes to clean old-fashioned hate, I think this is the first time these two teams have been ranked since 2014. It feels like it's been about that long since Georgia Tech played a good football game. You say they've only beaten 4 Power 4 teams this year with a winning record. Laying those points, man, I think the Dogs roll.
So a lot of confidence in Georgia right now. Connor, can you match that?
No, I think that this is a game that Tech, because of their offense, they find a way to shorten it a little bit, fewer possessions. And in that case, while this is a little bit of a rotten number, there's 14 and a half floating out there. There's also 14 as well. Even at 13 and a half, I think Tech finds a way to keep it within that. I don't necessarily think it's going to go the 8 overtimes like it did last year, but a 10-point cushion, I think, makes sense for me in this game. So give me the Yellow Jackets.
Connor is right that if you want to bet the game, obviously you want to find the best of the number depending on what side you want to be on. But that's what we're going with there. Kaylee Manziel, how about for you with Georgia favored by 13 and a half?
To be totally honest with you, my pick has nothing to do with either of these teams. I feel like as this season has gone by, I've learned a lot more about Vegas, and this feels like a Vegas number in which they're begging you to pick Georgia Tech. And because of that, I'm going to take Georgia.
Okay, so Kaylee Manziel, a little zig in place of a zag. I'm taking Georgia here too. And listen, I haven't been winning enough to go deep into my research the way that I sometimes do. I'm just going to kind of play this one this week by the feel. And it just feels like Georgia's playing some of its best football. You'd like to believe that after these games were close the last couple of years, and Tech, boy, getting really a lot of pats on the back for or otherwise losses, you'd like to think at a certain point that just gets on Georgia's nerves and they're able to come out and play with a postseason edge, essentially treating this like the start of the postseason. That's what we've certainly been calling for on Dog Nation Daily. You'd like to think that given what Georgia's done in recent weeks, it might be able to do that against Georgia Tech. Now, I want to be very clear about something here. This is not a rubber stamp. It's not a guarantee. Tech could play this one close and Tech could win. But given what Georgia has done as of late, finding a way to win this one by multiple scores, I don't think that's asking the impossible from Georgia right now. So I'll take Georgia minus the 13 and a half. Dari, that puts the flow, perhaps not surprisingly, heavily on the side of Georgia. You want to go with the flow and take the Bulldogs here.
This is where that system breakdown right here on this game. I like it right out the gates. You know, if Georgia Tech beat Pitt last week, I would have loved whatever number is put here for Georgia. It kind of changes a little bit of dynamics. They almost came back. You know, they had that huge stop drive in the third quarter, and then that pick to the house totally killed that game. But they were on the cusp of, if they score a touchdown there, they're going to come back and win that game, something that hasn't been done with a deficit that large in an ACC game. It was there, it was in front of them, and it got away. I think Haynes King, as a leader that he is going to put this on his shoulders. He's going to lay it all on the field in this game. I think Brent Key, as good of a coach he is going to come up with a game plan, like Connor said, not only to shorten this game, but they're going to find a way to keep this close, and they are going to lay everything they got on this line because it's still in front of them. If they want to make the playoffs and they want to do something, they have to win this game. Okay, so it's going to be a battle, and I believe Georgia's going to win this game, but I think Georgia Tech is going to find a way to keep this game close, and they're going to cover that number.
Well, the one thing I certainly believe, as Dari said, Tech will play better this Friday against Georgia than it played last Saturday against Pitt. I think there's a very good chance that is the case. That's the story with clean old-fashioned hate. We'll keep it on Black Friday rivalries right now, even though this game really should not be played on Friday afternoon. It should be played where God intended it, Thursday night, as a part of your Thanksgiving festivities. But nonetheless, what an Egg Bowl we have this year in Starkville, Mississippi, as the Ole Miss Rebels are feeling like a playoff team, although they did drop in the College Football Playoff Top 25 this week from 6 down to 7. And yet it's really the future of Lane Kiffin that seems to hang in the balance there. Will he stay at Ole Miss? Could he go to LSU? Could he go to Florida? Is there some other mysterious candidate that could also earn Lane Kiffin services? At some point in time after the Egg Bowl, we'll find that out. But for now, what will happen during the Egg Bowl? Well, Mississippi State's only a 7.5-point underdog here. Keep in mind, this is a team that has had some success this season, played very close against Texas, did beat a ranked Arizona State team. And yet, while Ole Miss thinks it has a lot bigger opportunities ahead of it beyond the Egg Bowl, experts expecting this one to at least be somewhat close. Just a 7.5-point number here right now. Although Ole Miss is 3-1 against Mississippi State in the Lane Kiffin era in this in-state rivalry game. Mike Griffith, we come back to you. Mississippi State hosts. They're getting 7.5. What is going to happen with Lane Kiffin and the Rebels here on the road?
Yeah, it's an interesting game, but I feel like Ole Miss is kind of the big fish in the small pond in that state. They're comfortable in this environment. They're comfortable in Starkville, and Mississippi State. I feel like Lane Kiffin has them pretty well scouted. They give up a lot of sacks. I feel like Ole Miss is going to win this game going away. I know everybody's expecting Ole Miss to fold, perhaps because Lane Kiffin is on the verge of taking another job. But a lot of those players want to go with Lane Kiffin. They're auditioning for whatever's next, whether it's to go with Lane where he goes, or for the next guy, or for the transfer portal. And I believe Ole Miss is going to say, "Show me the money," and I feel like they're going to control this game and beat Mississippi State handily.
So on the road, as Mike says, winning handily in this rivalry game. It's the lead into Georgia versus Georgia Tech. A lot of interest in it. Mike on the side of Ole Miss. Jeff Sintel, do you agree with that?
I think so. I think what the number is 7.5. I think there will be at least that many diatribes or monologues about Kiffin to LSU, or Kiffin in the 90 million, or Kiffin in the $25 million roster sweetener, perhaps. Most of this panel, I believe all of this panel, have been in Starkville for a game day at noon. I don't think that's much of a raucous home field advantage. Ole Miss, much better football team. You've got, Mississippi State, their quarterback of the future is probably not the one that started most of this season. I just don't think the recipe is here for them to beat the Rebels. I don't mind those points. Give me Ole Miss to win by a couple touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm not quite so sure I necessarily agree with that, Jeff. It wasn't certainly close to a full stadium when we were there a couple of weeks ago, but those who were there, I thought they were making a good bit of noise. I've said before, I think that the cowbells are probably overrated. I don't think they make quite as much noise as people think they do, at least not collectively. But honestly, I thought the Mississippi State fans that were there for the 11 a.m. local against Georgia a couple of weeks ago, I thought they did a pretty good job of stirring it up. And they'll be at a fever pitch for this one.
I mean, I'll give you that they'll be stoked up, but I don't really know. Maybe this is a constitutional thing in my mind where any rivalry game played at 11 a.m. when you're just digesting your Cajun filet biscuit doesn't really feel like a rivalry game.
No, I don't disagree with that necessarily. A little early start for it should be at 9, and it should be Thanksgiving night. Connor, how about for you? First of all, don't you think, I thought the atmosphere in Starkville was actually pretty good, even though it wasn't a full stadium. But beyond that, what do you think is going to happen in the game?
I think they lose points with how quickly Mississippi State fans were looking to bail out of that game. And for me, in this game on Saturday, or on Friday, whenever it is, it's not when it should be played, as BA eloquently states there. This game should be played on Thanksgiving night. These teams should hate each other. Mississippi State can't stop the run. They gave up over 300 yards to Ahmed Hardy of Missouri a few weeks ago in a similar line. And I know they're playing for a spot to get into a bowl game, but I think Keelan Lacey is going to be too good in this game, and I think his ability to run the ball is going to be what separates Ole Miss in this game. It's not going to be spectacular. It's not going to be pretty, but it is enough to win by 8 points. So give me the Rebels here on the road.
So Connor on the side of Ole Miss right there. A little bit of love for the Rebels here right now. Kaylee Manziel, what about for you?
I wish I was doing something different, but I'm not. I think that Ole Miss has the clear talent advantage, and honestly, part of me feels like Lane Kiffin knows that he has to come out in this game and score a ton of points to show the world that it's not a distraction what's going on. So I wish I was taking something different from the rest of the panel, but I am going to take Ole Miss.
So Kaylee on the side of Ole Miss. The problem with that is, and listen, I don't feel great about my pick or really any of my picks as of late, but the problem here is the last time we saw Lane Kiffin really knee deep and maybe he'll take a job, maybe he won't, going back to 2022, Ole Miss did fall apart at the end of that season. He was flirting with the Auburn job, and the Rebels just completely drifted during that time. So I can't trust Ole Miss to necessarily be locked in and ready to go. And yet on the other side, here's my concern. The thing we keep saying about Mississippi State over and over again is, oh, man, they're playing everybody close this year, everybody close. In their last 2 games over the course of the last 3 weeks, that's not been the case. Obviously, Georgia handled them easily, and frankly, they were beaten pretty handily by Missouri in the game after that, too. So the Mississippi State plays everybody close version of this Bulldogs team the last couple of games has not come to full fruition. But I'm going to take a flyer that it is going to return on Friday. If for no other reason, they have spoken openly about the fact they would like to be bowl eligible. They have to get this one to have that. And just on the notion that in this stadium where their fans really care. It's a chance to get a measure of revenge for a Ole Miss team that's gotten far more attention in recent years than they've gotten. This is a chance to at least put a scare in them, and that may all be all that it is. But putting a scare in them, I think Mississippi State would rise up just for the chance to do that. So, just for fun, I'm going to take a flyer on Mississippi State plus the 7.5. The flow, though, hotty toddy for sure. Dar, you want to go with the flow here and take the Rebels?
Yeah, Rebels laying the points is the right side here. I like Ole Miss to cover that number.
All right, so Dari will not join me in rooting for the upset opportunity, which is fine. There's a very good chance I'm wrong about that, but we'll have some fun on that. We'll also stay on Black Friday here right now, too. And this one is a game that Georgia fans will certainly be watching close, as the Texas Longhorns, who suddenly the College Football Playoff Selection Committee has decided they don't like at all, will get ready to host the Texas A&M Aggies. Renewal of this rivalry a year ago after a long hiatus once Texas A&M left the Big 12 saw Texas get that win last year, but this year things far different for Texas A&M overall. Undefeated, ranked number 3 by the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. On the flip side of that, it is Texas who runs its record now to 8-3 after blowing out Arkansas a week ago. Longhorns offense probably clicking in that one better than we've seen, certainly for the most part in SEC play. But let's be honest, everybody scores against Arkansas. Texas was no different in that spot. Do the Longhorns still have playoff hopes? Being ranked outside the top 15 this week would lead you to believe they probably do not, but they would still love to beat their in-state rival. And if they do, keep in mind, that'd be good enough for Georgia, regardless of the action against Georgia Tech, to punch a ticket to the SEC championship game next Saturday. Skinny number here. Longhorns just a 2.5-point home underdog. Mike Griffith, we come back to you. Can the Aggies close out the regular season undefeated? Can they get this coveted win against Texas? They are a relatively small favorite of just 2.5 points here on the road. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, if you look at Texas A&M's FBS opponent winning percentage, it's .491. It's smaller than any of the other college football playoff contenders. They've basically played the bottom 7 teams in the SEC, and Texas is playing well. And you say everybody scores on Arkansas. Well, Texas A&M only beat Arkansas by 3 points. And it was earlier in the season, but it was only a couple of weeks ago that Texas A&M fell behind 30-3 at halftime. There's problems in A&M. It's a good team. It's a playoff-worthy team. But they're catching Texas at the wrong time. I think Texas feels disrespected. They're in their home stadium. To me, this looks like a pretty easy pick. I'm not going to make it any harder than it is. I'm going to go with the hot team with more talent at home. I'll take Texas.
So Mike on the side of Texas here, plus the 2.5. Jeff Sintel, what about you?
I tell you what, Mike's system, it is like clicking like a Tom Brady era offense right there on that last pick. You got a home game. You got the haven't played anybody card. That's one thing you always notice with Texas A&M. I believe they haven't played anybody inside the top 15 this year, except for number 8 Notre Dame. You see Texas has played at least 3 or 4 teams quite like that. I think Texas, this would be a down season if they can't get A&M. And then all of a sudden, when I start feeling and I start leaning into that direction, I also think about the battered Aggie syndrome. And something happens always with the Texas A&M season. Mike was also astute to bring up the barometer between how both of these teams play. Texas A&M and Texas both played Arkansas. That's some transitive property right there. Put that all up in a bowl. It's only 2.5 points. The Longhorns are at home. I think they get a horns up moment, and McConaughey is happy.
So Mike, I should say Jeff, also on the side of Texas here. Connor Riley, what about you?
I'm actually going to take the Aggies here. I know that, everyone wants to pick Texas in this game, and I do think that there is obviously some SEC championship ties in this. I think Georgia very much wants to play in the SEC championship game. I think it would behoove them to do so. But I kind of just think they're going to get left out of this. So I think Texas A&M is going to find a way to win this game by more than 2.5 points. I think this game means a lot to them, and I think this allows them to put to rest a lot of questions about them and their schedule that they have fairly been asked about. So give me the Aggies here on the road, minus the 2.5 points. I also just don't think this Texas team is all that good. I think they're a little bit overrated, and I've just not been very impressed with this team all season.
I think one of the points that Connor makes is certainly an accurate one. This is a massive game for Texas A&M. So far away from College Station, I don't know that we can fully process for I mean, they hate Texas, did not want any part of them in the SEC, lost their home game to them a year ago. You can make a case. This is almost as big as stuff that's going to happen for them in subsequent weeks. They really, really want to beat Texas in the spot. I think that's a pretty good point. Kaylee Manziel, what about you? Texas at home getting 2.5.
I'm going to give you guys a 2-for-1 pick special here because I do think that out of all the SEC championship scenarios, the most likely one to happen is Georgia gets in because either Texas A&M or Alabama can't pull it out. So for both of these picks, I'm going to take the underdog with that. I will take Texas in this game.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking a little bit of the same thing, and this is probably just for fun from a rivalry week perspective, but perhaps against my better judgment, I took Mississippi State a moment ago. I want to take a handful of underdogs here too in the hopes that I can – it'll break my direction. You know, am I going to win all three of these? I don't know. Would it be nice to win two of these three? I think I have a chance to do that. This is an example of that where, and I think Mike touched on this. You can decide for yourself how much you put into this, but there is a huge imbalance of who these teams have played to this point. Maybe Connor's right. Maybe Texas is overrated. Wouldn't be the first time that was true. But this is a team, according to ESPN FPI, that's played the 10th toughest schedule in America. That is far tougher than what A&M has played to this point. So you can make a case that Texas is just the more battle-tested of these two teams. Is it enough to get it to the winner's circle? I don't know. Is it enough on a rivalry Friday night to get me to take a flyer on them plus the 2.5? Yeah, I think it probably is. So I'll take this underdog here too. With the thought that maybe a couple of these will actually get home for me. Dari, that puts the flow on the side of Hook'em Horns. You want to go with the flow and take Texas.
See, in a normal model, the system would tell you that Texas with a short line at home or Texas getting points as a home dog is an automatic, I'll punch that ticket. However, when you peel back the onion of this Texas team, you look at their win last week, as impressive as it was against Arkansas with the big numbers. Look at their rushing offense in that game. They still cannot run the football. Mm-hmm. They tried to run the football. The whole team did not even get 100 yards running the football, and that was against an Arkansas team that is ranked 110th nationally, giving up 187 yards on the ground. Now they're going against not only an in-state rival, but a Texas A&M defense front line that is going to give Texas problems. That defense is going to put Arch Manning on his back a lot this weekend. Give me the Aggies to win and win big at Texas.
How about that? Dari Payer from R.S. Andrews coming strong with that pick. And by the way, when it comes to showing up and doing strong things, R.S. Andrews also does that for you too. Air conditioning, heating, plumbing, electric needs. They show up on time. They do the work that's promised, the price is promised. They bring this show to us each week, and we love hearing Dari's picks, but more importantly, what they do to take care of you. Don't let a plumbing emergency ruin your football weekend. As you think about the upcoming Christmas season, it's going to be getting cold. In fact, it's cold here, moving towards the weekend too. Heating systems, get them tuned up to factory fresh specs. Listen, if you live in your house a long time, your heating system, who knows? Maybe it's a little bit behind its and after its shelf life. Eventually, you may need a new unit, but our friends at R.S. Andrews may be able to tell you how to get some new life out of your old unit. And wouldn't that be a great way to save a little bit of money? R.S. Andrews can show you how. So find them online, rsandrews.com. That is rsandrews.com. All right, we'll stay in the SEC, and we'll keep it going with a rivalry game here, too. Fresh off a very impressive performance, blowing out the Kentucky Wildcats, the Vanderbilt Commodores keep their playoff hopes alive. In fact, maybe even a tick higher than they were before. But now they got to finish off the regular season by going on the road to Neyland Stadium. And Tennessee's also riding pretty high right now at the moment, too, because they just won a rivalry game. A rare late season showdown against Florida. But for the first time in more than 2 decades, Tennessee goes to Florida, gets that win, running its record from the season to 8-3. Vanderbilt 9-2. has a chance to get 10 wins for the first time in program history. But up until this point in time, they have had no success in beating the Tennessee Vols. One of the few things that Clark Lee has not been able to do since installed there as the coach in Nashville. Overall, it's a 6-game winning streak for the Vols here against the Vanderbilt Commodores. Line, though, pretty small. Tennessee just a 2.5-point favorite at home against a Vandy team that feels like it's still got some playoff aspirations. This one, I think, is really fun. Diego Pavia, perhaps his swan song, a chance to write more chapters to his legend, and no doubt his mom on TV plenty too throughout all of that. Mike Griffith, we come back to you. Tennessee favorite at home, in-state rivalry game. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I'm with you, BA. It's a fun game, and Diego Pavia, probably the best quarterback in the game, and Clark Lee, an outstanding coach who's not signed his contract extension. A lot of upperclassmen there on Vandy, a lot of older guys. But the way Tennessee handled Florida in the Swamp was really something else. And this game matters in Knoxville. They don't have much else to play for. They're not going to get into the playoff. The people aren't interested in non-playoff bowl games. This is the Vols' shining moment, and this is the easiest pick on the board. Take Tennessee and give the points.
I think that's a pretty strong pick, to be honest with you. Jeff Sintel, what about you?
Wow, that's a lot of chess there for Mike Griffith with that pick. Do you know the ESPN FPI has these teams as the 16 and 17 teams in the country? There's less than a 1.0, less than a decimal point between the two, and I think it's really intriguing. There's a lot of ways to kind of take a look at this football game. There's a lot of history here. When someone tells me that Vanderbilt has never had a 10-win season ever, that's a lot of system, that's a lot of snaps, that's a lot of tackles, that's a lot of blocks. Tennessee's at home. I think Mike is right in terms of the system has noticed that Tennessee has found something a little bit late with his offense. They've gotten a little bit better. I don't know if this is the easiest pick on the board. I think this was one of the more tougher ones for me, but I will lay the points and take the home Tennessee Volunteers.
All right, a lot of love on Big Orange right now. Connor Riley, what about you?
I was content to come in here and take Tennessee. I like this game a lot, but it's last week of the regular season. Who would I be if I didn't just decide to fade Jeff and fade Mike one last time? It hasn't exactly worked for me this season, but you know what? Give me Vanderbilt here. They need this game more. It means more to that program, and I think they're going to find a way to at least keep this close. I don't really believe it, but I got to stick to my principles here, and I'm going to fade Mike and Jeff one last time. So give me the Doors plus the 2.5.
Yeah, I feel like on rivalry week, you got to be backing some underdogs. Not simply a matter of which underdogs do you choose to back, but that's what's fun about rivalry week. So and it's also a classic Connor move to fade the guys that picked before him, but it's fun to be on some underdogs here for a rivalry week game, and this is among the most fun, I believe, for the weekend. Kaylee Manziel, what about you? You know Nashville well, and the folks from Nashville making the move over to a Knoxville in the east part of the state here for this one. Tennessee favored 2.5. What do you think?
I don't know how well you think I know them, because I don't think I know them that well.
I feel like
but
you've
I
been
am
to
gonna
8
take.
million bachelorette parties. You've done. How many of listen,
I
you
know
know
all the
your way
places
around a
to
pedal
eat.
bar.
I don't know. I mean, honestly, I came into this taking Vanderbilt. I was kind of hoping Connor would take Tennessee. I'm going to take Vanderbilt. I think Mike and I were the only two to take Vanderbilt over Kentucky last week.
Good
I
pick.
like some of that momentum to maybe carry over. I know what they say about Neal and the Dogs got it done there. Something just tells me to take Vanderbilt. So I guess we're going to do it one time for the city of Nashville.
There you go. I like it. I really, and this is maybe a rare thing for me to say, I almost agree with everything that Mike said a moment ago. I don't know if it's easy, because nothing for me has been easy, but this is the pick that I'm the most sure of for this particular weekend. I thought last week in Gainesville, I thought the game still felt pretty big time. There was a lot of SEC vibe to that. Tennessee had a good showing of fans traveling down to Gainesville. The Florida fans, for the most part, showed up pretty well. Maybe some empty seats for the students, but for the most part, they showed up. And frankly, I wasn't really sure what we would get from Tennessee last weekend. And as Mike touched on, because there are no playoff stakes here, game probably meant more to the Tennessee coaches. They needed that win bad than the Florida players, who may be thinking about their next spot. And yet Tennessee really showed up and played well and got a convincing win against Florida. If they would do that on the road, I certainly trust them to come back home, because they don't in their own state want to hear all this Vanderbilt stuff and everything that's associated with that. I think if you're going to back a favorite this week, especially with a relatively small number, and as Jeff mentioned, power rating wise, Tennessee and Vanderbilt are essentially treated as the same team. Tennessee getting credit for home field advantage and essentially nothing but that. That's the sole sum total of this point spread. But I thought Tennessee still played with a lot of juice last week, so that's enough for me to back them in this spot. The flow is on the side of Tennessee too. Dar, you want to go with the flow and take the Vols?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the Vols are going to get this done. I think it's going to be an entertaining game because Vanderbilt's going to produce. They're going to put up some yards. They're going to put up some points. But at the end of the day, in this game, it's going to be the defense that's different. And Tennessee's going to be able to bring pressure and attack them on defense and really take it to Vanderbilt. And they just won't be able to keep up with the offense.
Yeah.
But it should be fun to watch. But give me the Vols.
Yeah, I think it's fun to watch too. And if to me, this is the favorite that feels a little safer than some of these others. We'll certainly see about that. Also, I'll tell you this, on Black Friday, we are doing a live edition of Dawg Nation Daily. So if you want to check out the end of that show for our R.S. Andrews cool down, we'll give you our official pick for Michigan and Ohio State. And I tell you, man, I'm really, really looking forward to that one. A rare opportunity for me to be excited about a game not involving an SEC team. But I think that's a really fun rivalry matchup. We'll give you that on Friday, plus some best bets, although my best bets this season have really been horrendous, getting worse as the season progresses. But that's all coming up on Friday as a part of the R.S. Andrews Cool Down at the conclusion of the video broadcast of Dawg Nation Daily. Here, though, as a part of Go with the Flow, let's give you one more game. It's the Iron Bowl. Bit of a rare prime time slot for this one at Jordan-Hare Stadium. Alabama trying to figure things out after its loss to Oklahoma 2 weeks ago. Auburn trying to salvage something of a season. Clearly in a lame duck coach situation, interim coaching staff situation, needing this one just to get bowl eligibility. But more importantly for them, a chance to ruin the Alabama season, keep it home from the SEC championship, and maybe more importantly for a second straight year, keep it out of the college football playoff. Bama coming in at 9-2. Auburn coming in at 5-6 with a win. Alabama is in Atlanta next week. Auburn trying to prevent that. Small number here, though, and crazy things have happened in this series, especially in this stadium. Auburn, a 5.5-point underdog at home. Mike Griffith, we come back to you.
Yeah, it's the best rivalry in college football. There's nothing like an Iron Bowl. Alabama and Auburn, it's amazing. The environment's going to be lit. We saw what Auburn did against Georgia earlier this year for 28 minutes. And, I like DJ Durkin as a coach, but I like Kalen DeBoer more. And when I close my eyes and imagine the teams coming out of the tunnel for the SEC championship game, I see Alabama and Georgia in a rematch. Alabama needs to win this game to make that happen. I don't think 5.5 points is enough for Auburn. So give me the Crimson Tide to roll the Tigers.
So, Mike, on the side of the favorite on the road, Jeff Sintel, what about you?
Does the magic of Jordan-Hare work with an interim coach? I don't know. DJ Durkin is lobbying for the full-time job. I don't think that's going to happen. If you've seen some subtle things with some picks, it seems like a lot of our panel are forecasting a way for Georgia to get into the SEC championship game, much to the chagrin, perhaps, of some members of Dawg Nation. I don't really think this one's going to be close. I don't even know. I think Kalen DeBoer could wear a pink Dollar General Alabama hoodie if he wanted to this week. I like the Tide to really hand it to the Tigers this year and really force Auburn to really think about what they have to do with the head coaching position and the direction of their program.
So a lot of love for Alabama thus far. Maybe a little bit of a surprise for me. Connor Riley, what about you?
No, this is Alabama all day long. I have absolutely no respect for DJ Durkin as a coach. He should not be allowed to be the head coach of a major college football program with the skeletons that he has in his closet. Don't shake your head, Mike. And I would also add here, we talk about the magic of Jordan-Hare. They've scored 30 total points in 3 night games this season at home. I don't think that that's suddenly going to be fixed despite Hugh Freeze no longer being in charge. Give me Alabama here to win comfortably, setting up Alabama and Texas A&M.
Kaylee Manziel, what about for you?
I've already told y'all what I'm going to do. So in the spirit of RTTM, give me the Tigers.
So Kaylee on the side of Auburn. I'm going to join Kaylee on that too. And listen, I just don't think people realize how frequently Alabama and Auburn have been playing close games throughout these recent years, even in years in which, and we had the graphic on the stage on the set a moment ago, on the screen a moment ago, Auburn's been bad now for a while, but still keeping it close against Alabama. This game was 27-24 in 2023. This game was 24-22 in overtime in 2021. You go back to 2019, Auburn won outright. 2017, Auburn won outright. Obviously, everybody remembers the kick six game from 2013. That in this series, Auburn's had almost more success against Alabama than almost anybody has had over the course of that same span. And admittedly, I wish there were more points in this spot, but given the fact that Alabama's just not been playing great offensively for a pretty good while now. And as Dari mentioned earlier, there's a knock on Texas because they can't run the ball. Well, gosh, Alabama can't run the ball either. But also, when you look at the overall, what was supposed to be a very explosive passing game, we haven't talked about Ryan Williams a lot this year. In fact, I don't even believe he's their best receiver right now. And Alabama making it look easy on offense, that's not really something they've been doing very much either. I can't necessarily tell you how Auburn's going to do it because it's a young quarterback, it's an interim coaching staff, it's kind of a mess. I don't dispute that. And they really haven't played well at home, at least, compared to what their reputation might be. But as a Georgia fan, if you gave me the choice of playing ranked Tech on a neutral site on Friday or playing at Auburn on Saturday night, this would be the more difficult game in Jordan-Hare Stadium in this spot, despite the fact that it's a team with a losing record. I think Auburn has some fun on Saturday. Do they win? I don't know. But I think they have some fun. I think they keep it inside the number because that's actually happened far more frequently in the series than I think some people realize. I'm going to take Auburn plus the points. The flow, though, is on Alabama. Do you want to go with the flow and take the Crimson Tide?
So I'm going to give you two stats. First stat is current this year. Alabama has not won a road game by more than 7 points all year. Stat number two is in this rivalry, Alabama has not won or beat Auburn at Auburn by more than 3 points since 2015. These games have been close when it's played in Auburn at Jordan-Hare. However, I'm going to throw out all those stats because those were the same trends and stats that were Tennessee, Florida for 22 years. That's out the window, and it's going to be out the window this week because Alabama's offense is going to pull ahead, and they're going to win this game by double digits. It'll be ugly out the gates, but there will be separation later in this game. I think they win by 12 or 13 points.
Interesting to see how that plays out. Big rivalry game. And everybody who's tuned in to Go With The Flow presented by R.S. Andrews right now, hope you're enjoying the rivalry weekend coming up, getting ready to enjoy that. I also, if you're watching this on Wednesday, getting ready for a great Thanksgiving, and if you sneak away from the family on Thursday to watch it on demand, perhaps on the Dawg Nation YouTube page, I hope this broadcast finds you in the midst of what is an unbelievable holiday season, getting started with Thanksgiving there on Thursday night. And as a reminder, we'll be on Dawg Nation Daily on Friday, game day leading to Georgia Tech. And on the R.S. Andrews cool down at the end of that show, we'll give you our official pick for Michigan and Ohio State. Of course, our best bets from the rest of the rivalry week action. All of that coming up on Friday. Best of luck with your own picks. Enjoy the games, and we'll see you next time for Go With The Flow, presented by R.S.